Yeah, everything's on.
Yeah,
I didn't
hey.
even bother doing
I
background
didn't even
music this
check
time
nothing. Yeah.
because it always seems like it's too loud. So
That's what I've
why
heard.
even mess with it? So there's no background music. It's just us breathing heavily while talking about comic books. So
uh,
welcome to the Tuesday new comic book stream. Here to talk about new comic books that
mhm.
are dropping tomorrow. Well, let's jump in. Was
We,
it a better week
you
than
know
last
what?
time?
So the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
I think I've said something to the effect of it's a really light week, so I was really
Yeah.
stretching for what I want to.
Yeah.
Complete opposite this week.
Oh.
I have over 20 books here to like show off,
Wow.
and half of them are stuff that's like in my pull. So we're not even going to spend a lot of time on those. I just want to just give them a little shout
Yeah,
out.
just give it
But
a little
yeah, there's
zhuzh.
so we don't have time to dawdle today, Dan.
Oh,
Is
well,
what I'm saying.
let's stop
Let's
dawdling.
just
Let's get
let's just
into it.
jump right
Let's
into
get
it.
into it.
So, like I like to always start off showing the facsimiles that are coming
Yeah,
out,
yeah, big
and so
facsimile
I'm a big
fan.
facsimile fan. We got Rom Space Knight, the fabulous first issue. This is
Hmm.
an old series that has been long out of print because it was a toy series.
Oh,
It was a license, I think, from Hasbro,
uh-huh.
and so this was
It looks like a transformer.
it
So
looks like,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So Rom Space Knight was like a science fiction toy character, and then they did this really long running series that was pretty popular. I've never read it myself because it's been out of print for so long. Because it had to do with the licensing because it was a toy license,
Okay.
and they either didn't I don't know the whole story. They either didn't renew the license or couldn't come to an agreement with
Right.
Hasbro
Yeah.
because it was never like a exceptionally popular toy line as
Yeah.
I understand it. Like
Well,
nobody's.
Hasbro's ruthless too, man.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is, this issue, this facsimile reprint of issue number one, is heralding the final, like the return of Rom Space
Hmm.
Knight. They're finally doing a Essentials collection or reprint of
Uh-huh.
the whole series. So if you've heard about it, like I hear older collectors talk about this book all the time. Like, oh, Rom was my favorite
Yeah.
comic. Like guys that are not necessarily like into they just like comic books. They're not
Yeah.
like hardcore into
Yeah.
superheroes or whatever. They talk about Rom was like the cool book because it
Never heard of
was
Rom.
if you liked Star Wars, you probably like Rom. It's just
Oh.
like classic science fiction. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. DC also here with their facsimile, Detective Comics number 58. This is the first appearance of the Penguin.
Penguin.
Look at that fella right
Penguins are
there.
my favorite animals. You know that?
You know, I love a good flightless bird.
That
They're
and lemurs.
lemurs, huh?
I like lemurs and penguins.
So this is
Both good animals.
I just want to.
Is there a lemur superhero or villain
You know what?
ever been?
I can't think of one off the top of my
Did we
head.
just invent a new character?
I'm sure
Don't steal
there's.
our idea.
Yes, that's gonna show up in the next issue of Amoral Stingray.
Please.
But yeah, I just like to show off the facsimile Detective Comics. I like this prints back before superheroes were omnipresent. So Batman was in Detective Comics, but there were other like detective related comics too.
Gotcha.
So I think Slam Bradley is in here as an old Golden Age character. But yeah, cool stuff. Original ads, and as I always like to point out, DC definitely trounces Marvel when it comes to the quality of the reprints. This is just beautiful paper.
It's got the right paper.
It's got the right paper. It's got the right colors.
That pulpy, gritty paper.
Yeah, just excellent stuff.
So DC, is that Detective Comics? Is that where it came from?
Yes, it is.
How could you forget Lex Lemur? Is Lex Lemur a thing? Tell me for real if Lex Lemur is a thing. I don't know.
Is she pulling your chain?
I feel like someone needs to come up with a lemur superhero or a supervillain. Susie, Aaron, collab.
We might make this happen.
I mean, I'll write the story. It'll be completely unhinged. It won't make any sense. It'll sell like hotcakes.
Okay. So a few collected books just to show off. I talked about Blue Book as it was coming out.
Yeah.
This is
a trade finally.
Yeah, it's a trade paperback. So if you missed the issues as we were talking about it, you got this nice collection here. Just kind of tells the story of I think it was the Millers. Yeah, Barney. I mean, this is an old like story. This is one of the first popular alien abduction stories from 1961.
Sure.
But one thing I noticed, I was just flipping through this, and it has the entire story, the Blue Book story. But if you recall flipping through the issues, it doesn't have any of the like backup stories that were in the issues of just like random, unrelated, like cryptid related stuff.
Is that dog getting stolen,
getting abducted. Yeah. So these are
This makes me sad.
yeah, these are. It's got variant covers in the back and some other pinups and stuff, but it doesn't have the original, or not the original, but the like the supplemental material that was in the issues.
Yeah.
Which I got to be honest, I kind of feel pretty good about because it makes me appreciate having the single issues.
Right.
Like you got something a little extra. Like
Oh,
all you
I
people
see.
that were waiting for the trade paperback and saying, "I'm not going to buy that issue.
got
I'll wait till it's good." You got screwed.
You don't get the cool stuff.
So now you might have to, you know, the main story is here. You get everything, but like if you're a completist like me, I have that problem.
Mhm.
I'm actually really glad I bought the issues,
Right.
because a lot of
super
times
upset about that.
I would be because I have this completist nature, and a lot of times I will prefer to wait for the trade paperback because, like, let's be honest, they look nice, they sit on a shelf easier,
Mhm.
and sometimes it can be a pain in the butt when you have thousands of comic books that you're bagging and boarding and trying to keep track of. So I appreciate a good trade paperback, but that would have driven me insane if I bought the book and then realized there was other stuff in the issues
that you just don't have.
Yeah, that I just don't have. Exactly.
Amazing.
So maybe they'll put it in a future collection. They refer to that as Volume 1. I'm hoping that they do more books. I really liked it. I like the art. Michael Avon Oming. He's a great artist.
Cool color
so I
scheme.
hope. Yeah, I like the monochromatic colors. We looked at, we saw it.
Yeah.
But just like, yeah, good book. Hope they do more, and maybe the supplemental stuff will get collected in a future book. Like that's just all supplemental stuff.
So
like they can use it to get like a secret Volume 3. Like if they publish Volume 2, which is a new story with new supplemental stuff,
Volume 3
and then they'll be like Volume 3, all the extras,
all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think Lex Lemur can see at night, right? Prehensile tail.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, the tail, obviously.
And like maybe he's got claws.
Do lemurs have claws?
I feel like they. Well,
all I know about lemurs is that they have
primates.
like rings on their tails.
They're
right?
primates, right? So maybe they don't have claws, but like the tail thing, that's legit.
I know they jump, right?
Oh, maybe he's like his home is being destroyed because rainforest, right? And he's tired of like playing the game. He's like, you know what? I went through the official channels. I tried to stop this.
So that's he becomes a vigilante.
Corporations are destroying, so he
goes. You have a nice environmentalism message.
Yeah.
We love comic books that have a message.
But he's kind of he's vigilante, so you're like, I don't know, should I root for this guy or no?
Right. Also, is he a lemur or is he a person in a lemur costume?
He's like half man, half. Well, he was bitten by a
radioactive lemur. Naturally.
Next book.
Okay, next book. Batman One Dark Knight. I don't remember if we talked about this on the stream, but
I feel like we
might have. This was a book that I got. This is written and drawn by Jock. One word, Jock. And he's a great artist. Done a ton of stuff.
Not Jacques.
Not Jacques. It's Jock. I mean, it might actually be Jacques, but I like to say Jock.
Maybe he's like.
This is one of those oversized black label books, so forgive us for not having it all in screen. It's just so big.
Yeah.
But so we talked last week about the Batman book, Gargoyle of Gotham, and I kind of made mention of like books that are written by artists.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they can be really surface level. It's just like an excuse to draw cool things
because they just want to draw.
Draw cool stuff. So like
story is secondary.
This is definitely a book that has like a really straightforward and simple high concept. Batman is escorting a criminal from Arkham Asylum to not a prison, to a courthouse to stand trial, and like an EMP goes off. All of Gotham goes into a blackout, and Batman there's like rioting in the streets. The gangs are like, "Oh, this is our time to take over Gotham."
Yeah. It's all dark.
So Batman's got to like struggle to get through blackout Gotham with the prisoner while people are trying to kill him, and there's like people trying to rescue the prisoner. It's just really cool. This is definitely one of those books that's like an excuse to draw cool things, but it's just awesome. Like it
looks really.
It's really, really good. So if you like like gritty Batman, like tough Batman, this is definitely tough guy, gritty Batman.
One Dark Knight.
Yeah, One Dark Knight. So definitely check that one out. There's all kinds of different Batmans out there, and
you want dark gritty Batman.
If you want dark gritty Batman, that's
the best kind of Batman. Isn't that his whole thing?
That's some people like detective Batman. I like detective Batman, and some people like the wacky, weird Silver Age Batman, old school Batman, where he's like
tights.
That's actually Golden Age. The Silver Age,
cracking puns.
That's actually Golden Age is actually more in line with the dark and gritty. Silver Age is where he's like making jokes and fighting space aliens, and he has like a rainbow costume, and it gets weird.
It's weird.
But I'm looking forward to those facsimiles, the Silver Age. All right, let's move on to our next big book collection.
That is a big book. That's another
big book. Man, I told you we got a lot to go through, not just quantity.
What's up with these big books?
So these just nice, comics used to be bigger. So this is a reprint of a magazine from the 70s, Creepy Magazine.
Did they get smaller or did people get bigger? And therefore, by scale, they seem smaller.
Well, I'm going to refrain from making some obvious jokes about the two of us, but no, books got smaller. Oh my God, you're huge, Dan. So this is a reprint of Creepy Magazine from the 70s, and it's just horror. It's in black and white. It's got amazing artists like Frank Frazetta, Alex Toth, John Severin, Al Williamson. Just like it's in line with the EC comics, like whenever we talk about those, like classic horror, but it's a few decades later. So it's the 70s. The code has been put into place, which prevents like monsters from being in books. It prevents like criminals from ever winning. Like that was the code. Like almost put the code single-handedly put EC out of business. But by the 70s, everybody was kind of loosening up on it, and they're like, you know what? Maybe it's okay to have a Dracula in a comic.
Maybe
book.
one or two monsters.
Maybe a mummy here and there. And so Creepy Magazine was
maybe a swamp creature.
Maybe as a treat. We got two of them in the same year from two rival companies.
Nice.
But this is
no lemur based.
No lemur based. No. But the nice thing about these creepy reprints is that they do, much like those facsimile issues, they reprint the entire thing. So including like the old ads that would be in there. Ads. The ads I do too.
Part, honestly. Finding a wacky thing they're trying to sell you back then.
Right. But like they have like the fan pages, like the letters pages, cool stuff. And I love that. See, like these books that are in black and white, like you can just see this beautiful line work. Like the art looks so good, and I'm gonna sound like an old man when I complain about newer comics, but a lot of times everything's digital, and you just have everything has like a glossy look, and you kind of can cut corners and create depth and stuff without having to put ink on the page. And these guys, everything was just all in the line work, like all just so much like shading techniques, all in the inking to create just the whole sense of everything, just the whole world.
You know, Susie's watching right now.
I know. Susie, professional digital colorist, is watching the stream right now. You know what? We love Susie. She does great work. There's some cool ads, but it's just you look at this old stuff. Wolfman's Wolfwagon.
What? Yeah. Give me one of those.
Right? Dracula's dragster.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
The magic lantern throws a huge image on the wall.
Wow,
that's pretty sweet.
Sounds magical.
I mean, looks like a gas can.
It does.
I don't even know.
But yeah, so this is cool stuff. If you like older books, if you're an old guy like me, or if you just want to study truly great artists and see how it used to be
art,
done.
Is that what you're saying?
Real art, not like the art that we see in so many comics today. I kid, of course. Let's move on to a newer book.
Oh, hey, it's this book that I like but doesn't fit anywhere.
Catching up. All right, we love Susie.
Wow.
So,
hey, it's the Forge.
Boom. So we talked about this one as it was coming out. I enjoyed this book. It's another giant book.
It's a massive book that doesn't fit in any of my boxes.
It's been on break for a few weeks, but issue 4 is coming out, continuing space opera about. It's like a military group. They're called the Forged, and they are in these giant, like mech suits,
muscle ladies.
And they're muscle ladies, and they have dirty, filthy mouths.
They do,
just like all real soldiers.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's cool stuff, and I recommend it. I really like it. If for no other reason than just because it's nice to have something that is, a little different than the average book that's on the stands right now. I like a good space opera. We just showed off the facsimile to Rom Space Knight.
Yeah.
And this is issue 4. If you missed the first 3 issues, well, don't fear, because they did the collection of volume 1 came out last week, and this prints the first 3 issues. Now this is one, like I think we were on the subject of waiting for the trade. This is one that I felt I was gonna wait for the trade on because it's a nice big book. It doesn't fit in a long box that well because it's huge, so you can put it on your shelf, But I cracked and bought the issues.
Yeah, I got them too.
Yeah, but the book is out there. It's really good. I highly recommend this book. I haven't read the new issue yet because, as we said, 1 million books came out this week. But I'm looking forward to jumping into that. So I'm gonna kind of blast through.
Let's blast.
We're gonna blast through just some books. I just want to make a little special mention. I've talked about these books before, but here they are. Kea. I love this book. I haven't read it yet, this newest issue, but I'm super excited to. Post-apocalyptic action adventure about a young woman who has like a robot arm. Yeah. She's trying to find her brother. There's lizard people. There's monsters. It's all like classic adventure action.
Can't go wrong with lizard people.
Right. I love.
You think a lemur person would show up in this situation?
Maybe they had like swamp creatures. I know lemurs aren't in swamps, but this thing, the door is open to go to like.
Imagine his giant eyes.
Yes,
and he's just like.
The door is open for them to go into like a jungle area that has like mutated lemur people. But for now, it's all lizards and swamps.
Lame.
All right, moving on. This is another book that I've talked about, Wild's End.
Yeah, this is a very interesting book.
Awesome book. I highly recommend it. The art is beautiful. It's written by Dan Abnett, who is actually a writer that you're familiar with, Dan.
Yeah.
So
he does a lot of Black Library Warhammer stuff.
Yeah,
very cool.
I love talking animal comics. I don't make no secret of that. And this is like. They advertise it as Wind in the Willows meets War of the Worlds, and it's basically just these poor people from a seaside town having to deal with the fact that their world has been invaded by aliens and they're trying to brainwash people and kill them and stuff.
That'll happen.
Really good, yeah. So excellent book. You should definitely check it out. Another book, briefly mentioned, I'm a big fan of Howard Chaykin. We've talked about his book Sunshine Patriots a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
This is another book of his that I'm reading, Hey Kids Comics. This one might be a little hard to get into because it's a really dense book, and it's basically a telling of the entire history of the comics medium, but presented as a drama, and all the characters are avatars like for the real people. So there's so many people. So it's like they have like Jerry Siegel and Schuster who sell their character. It's not Superman in this. It's like Power Man or something like that. But it's like it goes through like so many characters, and it can be really hard to keep track of if you're not familiar with who they are,
who they're supposed to
be. Right. But it's a really good comic. It's incredibly deeply researched. Like Howard Chaykin's been in the industry since the 70s. He's a guy who knows the industry, and he's a brilliant artist and writer. So I really enjoy this one, but this one is definitely more for
What's up with the cover? Let's talk about
some cosplay. It's like
it's just actual people,
it is a photo, but it's the evolution of Fan is the name of this issue, and it's pictures of like a kid cosplay, a young, an older kid, and then like a young adult, and then an adult.
Go on
presumably.
the record and say that I don't like pictures on comic book covers. I don't like it at all. This doesn't feel right to me. Like
it feels like you're lying.
It feels like it just seems wrong. Like I can go buy a magazine like those. What's the one character that has like a lot of the cosplay cover?
I know what you're talking about. Like those
Deja Thor, Deja's Theme,
Deja Thoris.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and that's
the
like
John Carter
cosplay
comics.
Covers, and it's like an actual person, and I'm not here for that. I don't want it.
Well, this one at least is relevant to the theme of the issue, but I like this book, so I don't want to say negative things about it. But I do kind of basically agree with you. I prefer art. Hey, we got a nice glare on this one. Just to make sure I'm not going to open this one.
We're not going to open that one.
But I enjoy Money Shot. It's funny. It's adults only. It makes me laugh and other things. But it's a good book. I've been reading it.
And other things.
And I'm enjoying it.
One of my favorites. I'm actually getting the different cover that is one large piece of art when you put all the different covers together.
Yeah, the connecting covers.
Folks in they're doing a thing. They're having a little party, if you will.
Yeah.
There's some connections being made with aliens, and I think it's fantastic. And it's just a really funny book.
It's funny.
It's fantastic.
It's good. All right.
Hey,
one more thing. Immortal Sergeant. I talked about this one. This is the final issue. Most people probably aren't going to see this one as issues, but I just want to give it a quick shout out. When you see this in trade, you should definitely pick it up. This is the climactic issue where the cop who's looking for the perpetrator of this crime that he never solved, like over his 40-year career, he finally confronts him.
Oh, nice!
And it's a really great story. It's very heartfelt. It's ultimately about relationships between fathers and sons, and it's very reflective of like the father who is a retired cop, kind of dealing with his life and reflecting on how he did things and how he might have done things differently and how he wants to do things correctly now in the present day when he's trying to solve this unfinished crime. It's really good. It's really good. It's emotional. It's good comic. So I highly recommend it. This is by Joe Kelly and Ken Nimura. They did a book that I've talked about before, but I don't think we've shown it on the stream, called I Kill Giants, which is another book that I really enjoy. So maybe one day when there's not quite so many books to talk about, I got a stack, like I said, over 20.
That stack.
We might flip through that one. So next one, Superman. I've been reading Superman. Man, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think we're kind of in a Superman renaissance right now. And we're just going to briefly show off. I got World's Finest and Superman. Both come out today. World's Finest by Mark Waid, written by Mark Waid. It's not drawn by Dan Mora anymore, but it still looks really good. Superman by Williamson. I forget his first name now. Starts with a J. Joshua Williamson. Yeah, good stuff. Like I've never been like Superman was never my guy. Like that would always been like Spider-Man or the X-Men. But right now DC is killing it with Superman. Like it's definitely the best superheroes you can get. So highly recommend it. Check those out if you've ever had any interest in Superman or you just want to read good superhero comics. Those will be my recommendations right now. You can keep the little smirk to yourself, Dan.
Superman.
I mean, he only created the entire genre that we're talking. Like the whole industry is built
had his
on.
Time. Let it go.
Yeah. It's been like what is it? Like 80 years.
I mean, kudos to Superman
hooray.
And the people that created Superman that he's still relevant.
It's kind of amazing. Yeah.
I mean, that's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But
it's another book I know a lot of people are looking forward to. Jeff Lemire's Fish Flies. This is kind of like a weird macabre story. It's not really a horror comic, but there's like some weird stuff in it. It's very surreal and dreamlike. There's a guy that gets turned into I'm trying to find a good panel for it. He gets turned into, I guess it's at the front. I'm really terrible. He gets turned into a giant bug. There we go. And it's like, oh, what's going on there? So it's a little Kafka-esque. It's like
woke up and realized he'd metamorphosized into a giant cockroach.
But then there's some like violent stuff that's happened in it. This other character, this girl, she gets bullied at school. Nobody likes her. She kind of forms this weird friendship with this weird bug guy that is also hiding from the cops because of stuff that happened. And it looks really nice, like beautiful watercolors or ink wash over everything. Just really good stuff. I've been enjoying this one. So if you want something a little different, that's one I recommend. All right, now let's move on to some of the more generic stuff.
Captain America number one.
There's so many number ones this week.
Yeah, number ones are going to be valuable, so buy them.
That's why they do it. You know, that's the old trick. It's
number one.
It's a number one. You know what? Captain America number one. That's like $1 million comic book. Yeah. Not this Captain America number one. The actual Captain America number one.
Like the very, very first one.
Yeah. But don't worry about that. This is the number one, so buy it. I kid. But so this, I think that what notable thing about this comic, this is like a restarting. This is a new Captain America series that's it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, who he's been a writer. He's a writer that's been around a long time. He's done a lot of comics in the 2000s. I have to say, I was never the biggest fan of his. He did his book Rising Power. He did Rising Stars. Sorry, and then at Marvel he did the Max book Supreme Power. And he's written Spider-Man and Superman, and he's done a lot of stuff. He was the showrunner and head writer of the real Ghostbusters animated TV show back in the 80s. So he's a guy who's been around for a long time, and he's got a huge resume under his belt. But so I decided to give this one a look just to see. And I think this is mostly, it bounces around in time. Like I think it's mostly going to tell stories of Steve Rogers back in the 1940s before he took the serum to become Captain America. And I really could not get into this book. The art is very much what I expect from a Marvel book, which is, it's not terrible, but it's just so, it's in that like realistic representation of the characters and just like overly painted colors. Like I was just talking about that creepy book. Like there's so much line work on every page, and on these pages there's not much line work. All the work is done in the coloring, and I just don't like it as much on a personal level. On a personal level, as far as the story goes, this is I think Straczynski's books suffer from taking themselves too seriously. So this is the kind of comic where a bunch of characters stand around and talk about all the crazy things they do.
Bubbles.
A lot of talking and a lot of just like characters standing here, like just flipping through it. You're not going to see.
It's not a lot of action.
It's not a lot of action, and that's not to say that the book needs to have action. But I want like something to happen like that moves the plot along, and this is just a lot of reflecting about how serious this is, and I don't know. This really didn't do anything for me. I think maybe if you're a hardcore Captain America fan, maybe, but there's some kind of plot going on with this villain who you got to read all. But you got to read all, and then it's all just a tease. Yeah. And there is a final page.
It'll tell you anything.
There's kind of a final page, like not a twist, but like a reveal of like where the story is going. And I'm not going to spoil it. But I was never the biggest Straczynski fan, and this book did not change my mind. So that's all I can say about this. Hey, another number one, Wonder Woman. So this one is written by Tom King, who is another writer that I'm not necessarily into, but I decided to check this out. This is definitely better than that Captain America book as far as new number ones go. The art looks really good. I should say that. Drawn by, actually didn't get the artist's name. Oh my God, it's in here somewhere.
It's in there somewhere.
It's you know what? On the cover, last name Sam Pierre, so we're gonna go with that. But this is another book. Like I have a tough time with superhero comics that take themselves seriously or too seriously, as it were. And so this is definitely a book that takes itself very seriously. Kind of sets up this ongoing plot about the Amazonians, and there's kind of a murder mystery element, and so all the Amazonians are getting what's the word?
Hunted?
Not hunted. Kicked out of America.
Deported.
Deported. Thank you, gosh.
Wow.
I'm stupid. They're deporting Amazonians, and Wonder Woman becomes like a fugitive because she's not being. She doesn't accept being deported, and she's gonna figure out the mystery. I don't want to reveal the final twist, but it's another book. I definitely think it's. Tom King, I think his stuff is overwritten. This book is no different than anything else. Wow. There's just, but I will say, I will say one thing is, I did feel like this book actually, deserved, it was nice to read a book that I didn't just flip through in 5 minutes. I did. Sure. You do have to really absorb this story. I think
got something to bite into. But it's still a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but I do feel like it's a little. It's just all set up for the ongoing thing, and there's really not much else to it, and it's you could have maybe added a little bit more in there, but
the first issue is just one big setup for the
rest
of the series.
That's a trend in modern superhero comics that I do not like. I don't have time to go into everything that I dislike about modern storytelling techniques.
I mean, it could be like a 4-hour stream.
It really could be, but we probably shouldn't be. So let's move on. I read that facsimile Wonder Woman a few weeks ago, and I loved that comic. And that was a long comic that also took me a long time to read because it was dense. It was George Perez art and writing. But I really liked it. It was so full. The whole issue had a full story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the more modern stuff, like the Tom King stuff, there's not really an end to it. It's just moving you 22 pages till you get to the cliffhanger. Yeah. And then the next issue moves you 22 pages till you get to the cliffhanger. Right. And that's just how a lot of books are, and that's why I'm really critical of them. But so let's move on to some more number ones that come out. So this is Hexagon Bridge by Richard Blake. This is a book from Image, and I really, really enjoyed this. Although I will say, all after my rant about Wonder Woman, there, like it is pretty light on story. Like again, a lot of this is set up, so it's like all the modern storytelling techniques I was complaining about.
Yes,
but it looks really beautiful, and I kind of like the. It's more like a methodical pace to this, where it's not overwritten, first of all. So it's just telling you the story in the art. And the basic setup is that they're basically a portal to another world is discovered, and so people go into it to map it out, and then they disappear. So now they're having to send in like other people to kind of figure out. They're trying to figure out what happened to them.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit more going on. There's a character who has some kind of psychic abilities, so she can kind of see what happened to the cartographers that went in. So you're kind of getting multiple parts of the story. It's a little, I don't want to say like non-sequential, but it's also like a little dreamlike, because some of it is being told through the visions that this character is having. But I really enjoyed it. It's a sleek looking cover. Like I really like the design work of it. Just like looks like an old,
it's clinical.
Yeah, exactly. So
scientific.
Very good book. I recommend it. This one's good. It's worth your $4 for sure.
Worth the $4. Ooh, that's a good. Yeah, it's worth the $4.
Worth the $4.
We haven't had catchphrases yet.
There you go. Worth it. So this one. So
work on that.
So next up, Predator vs. Wolverine. Now this one is $8. So now we get into weird math. Like
Hells yeah.
Maybe it's worth $4. Is it worth?
But is it worth $8? I mean, from the cover alone.
Cover's great.
Sign me.
So I'm surprised it took Marvel this long to do this, because they've had the Fox property. Disney has had the Fox properties, which is why they publish a Predator series and an Alien series. And back in the day, when Dark Horse had the licenses, they did lots of crossovers with DC characters. So you can get like Predator versus Superman, and aliens crossing over with whatever with Batman. And I really like this because Wolverine just seems like the obvious character to pit against the Predator. This is like a fan comic. Like, who would win in a fight, Wolverine or the Predator?
Yeah.
And
first time they got to prepare.
Exactly, a prep time. So what I went into this kind of like thinking there's a lot of ways you could do this, because it is basically just a fan concept idea. So is there going to actually be a story here?
Right. Yeah.
And
it's going to make any sense.
It's written by Ben Percy, who writes the Wolverine series. He's been writing it for the last couple of years. And from what I can tell from this first issue, what I really enjoy about this is that each issue is going to take place at a different period in Wolverine's long life. Because as you know, Wolverine is like over 100 years old.
Sure, yeah.
And so the central idea here seems to be it opens present day. Wolverine is just torn up to shreds.
Yep.
This Predator is chasing him. And then he flashes back to the first time he saw the Predator.
He's had a run-in with the Predator multiple times.
Yes.
Or a Predator.
In 1900 is the first time he ran into a Predator. And so then there's the end.
This dude on Free Willing.
Yeah, there you go. He's
Free Willing.
And then the issue ends with kind of a lead into the next issue, which is, I guess I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a different period in Wolverine's life where he comes across another Predator. And so that actually intrigues me a lot, because Wolverine is a character who's had a long, confusing history with his continuity. So this is a fun way of doing all the different versions of Wolverine versus a Predator.
Neat.
So it kind of, Ben Perkins, Benjamin Percy, he just does like it's a creative job of handling the who would win in a fight, Wolverine versus Predator. And then, all continuity nerds would sit there and argue, well, at this point, Wolverine, at this point, it's like, well, does Wolverine have his adamantium claws? Because that makes a big difference. Is it in the period when he didn't have his adamantium? And so I like this. It is just all versions of Wolverine versus Predator, just at different points in his life. So, it's strong start. It's an $8 comic, and you know what? If you like Wolverine and Predator, I say it's worth your $8. Yeah. And another number one.
Crap, another number one.
Uncanny Spiderman.
He is uncanny.
Now, so this is deceptive.
He looks like that other guy, right?
He looks like that other. Correct. What's his name?
The blue German guy.
You're like right there. What's his name?
fudge. What's his name?
It's similar
what
to
is his name?
Similar to that of a worm, something that you might use.
What's the blue guy that disappears and makes a sulfur cloud? And he's German.
And the sound effect is Bamf. Jacob, help us out. Jacob, off camera, shout it out.
It's Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah! There you go. So Nightcrawler.
Which Pokemon is it? Nightcrawler. Can we talk about Muhammad Ali versus Superman next week?
Absolutely.
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, that was a book in the 70s. Yeah. I need
to come in and talk about Muhammad Ali versus Superman.
Susie, buy me a copy, and I will absolutely talk about it on stream. So this book, this is a solid first issue.
He's bamfing.
Yeah, he's bamf, man. That's his thing.
Is it Spider-Man or is it Nightcrawler?
It's Nightcrawler. And so this issue, you'll notice that it has Fall of X in the corner. So this is dealing with the aftermath of the current
X-Men
continuity
series,
events. Yeah. So basically the setup here is that all the mutants are persona non grata again. So all the mutants are kind of in hiding. And Nightcrawler, for reasons that they don't really go into in this issue, other than he's trying to atone for something, and so he decides he's going to be a superhero in New York City, and he's friends with Spider-Man, and so he has this backup costume. And I wish this joke would have been played up a little bit more, but I think the idea is there's just so many dang Spider-Mans right now that who's going to notice one more?
Yeah.
Which is a great...
It's not odd at all.
Yeah, it's like there's already like 5 different Spider-Mans running around. You've got the Miles Morales one. You've got the new Spider-Boy that everybody's talking about. You got there's clones of Spider-Man out there. Like, yeah,
why not one more?
Who's going to notice one more that's blue? Like, honestly.
It has weird feet.
Yeah, so that, I think that's kind of the idea they're going for. I think it could have been played a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just as more, I mean, maybe I just want more jokes, but
sure.
But this is written by Cy Spurrier, who is a good writer, who I like him a lot. And it's a pretty standard first issue, but in a way that feels a little bit more substantial because it's more of a character piece. Like, it's just Kurt kind of dealing with the new setup, and like he's trying out being Spider-Man, and
interesting.
And he has a conversation with Spider-Man where he kind of explains like what he's doing, and it kind of continues also the ongoing plot of the current X-Men stuff where all the mutants are in hiding, and there's some organizations that are trying to find him. They're hunting mutants, and so he's trying to pretend that he's not a mutant. He's just a normal Spider-Man, you know. And the other thing about it, though, is so I say it's a little deceptive. Like, there's the Vulture right there. Just a spoiler alert for anybody that's wondering about the villains that are in this. It's Spider-Man villains that seem to be in this for the most part. So it is an interesting crossover. I was a little concerned about, like, is this just going to be a Nightcrawler comic with wearing a Spider-Man costume for no reason? But to the credit, it actually does feel kind of like a Spider-Man crossover because the supporting cast is all Spider-Man characters.
Yeah.
Like, it's just Nightcrawler being like, I'm going to pretend to be Spider-Man, and now he has to deal with all of Spider-Man's nonsense. And maybe he might learn that it's not as easy as he thought.
I know.
Being Spider-Man ain't easy.
That's right.
But I have a special appreciation for Nightcrawler. He's kind of low-key my favorite X-Man. It's so hard to pick a favorite X-Man, but Nightcrawler really is probably one of the best. So I'm kind of excited to read this and see where it goes. He's the best character who has the most kind of confusing and stupid backstory. Maybe even worse than Wolverine.
Wow.
Just as far as stuff getting grafted onto his character that doesn't need to be there, and then getting taken away, and then maybe being added again. It's whatever. But the base idea of the character is great. I love him. I enjoyed this issue kind of more than I thought I would. I think it's only a 3-issue series, so this is just kind of one of those like spin-offs of the X-Men books that I always complain about. But
you like this
I
one.
like this one.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked that Jean Grey one too. So I gotta say that right now, of the 2 X-Men spin-offs that I've read, they're selling me on it. So I guess good for them. Yeah.
Something is working.
Yeah, something is working, and I don't often say that. It's just another. So I picked this one up kind of at random. This is What If Dark Carnage. So Marvel's doing these What If Dark books. I love the old What If series. Before there was a thing called, I'm gonna rant to some of you younger readers out there. Before everything was a multiverse where everything had to be like connected and everybody could, everybody exists all at the same time. There was a series called What If. And I probably gave this same rant the last time we talked about a What If book.
Maybe.
But I just love that it's not like a canon necessarily. Like, it's not treated as it's just treated as like, what if this happened?
Fun, yeah.
And it's just a fun one-off story. And a lot of times it was like a fun way to look at, like, if things didn't go the way they absolutely did go in continuity, this is what would have happened. And it's kind of like the central idea behind What If was to prove that everything that happened in the regular Marvel continuity is probably the better version of what happened. Because even though it looks bad, like, it's like, oh, okay, Spider-Man's down on his luck, but what if this had happened instead? And then it turns out it's worse.
Yeah.
And so that's not really what's going on with these new What If comics. But I wasn't really going to read this because as much as I enjoy Carnage in my 1994 Spider-Man comics, I would be perfectly fine if they never made another comic starring Carnage ever again. Like, after the 90s, I think he just doesn't need to exist. But they're doing stuff with him. Now, what I like about this, I saw this issue is written by Larry Hama. He's a writer that I like. He's an old guy. He's been around for a long time. He created G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. Had a long stint writing Wolverine. Like, he's an old pro.
Those old guys get you.
They do. I'm a sucker for that. This is also drawn. So now, what's the other thing I often complain about is how the art in Marvel books doesn't look very good.
Oh.
This book is drawn by John McCrae, who is another great artist.
Old school looking.
Yes. He worked with Garth Ennis on a lot of books. And so he drew a book that I really like at DC called Hitman. He drew The Demon at DC. He's done a lot of stuff. He drew some of The Boys, that series that people pretend they've read. So this is just like a one-off weird story where Carnage fights a bunch of people, and then there's like some time travel, and he meets like an ancestor who's an more evil version of him, like the ancestor. Okay. So Carnage, the idea of Carnage is that he's like just a mentally unstable psychopath, and what happens when somebody like that gets superpowers? It ain't good, because he just starts murdering people.
Right.
And so this is like, oh, what if you meet somebody worse? And if you recognize this guy, that's the Dread Dormammu. So there's some weird like supernatural stuff going on. I liked it. This just felt, it was just like a good, like, old school, like, one-off issue. It had a beginning, a middle, and end. It's a good book.
That's all you want.
That's all I want. I really wasn't expecting to like it, but once I saw those names, and then I opened it up, and I was like, oh, this is actually a really interesting book. So terrible. So good job, Marvel. All right, boom. The book I looked forward to most this week: Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, starring Adam Starr and the Solar Legion Star. I can't say Star that many times. Star Warrior starring Adam Starr. That's a tongue twister. So this is by Tom Scioli, who is a cartoonist that I really like. He is a huge fan of Jack Kirby. A lot of his style has been directly influenced by Kirby. One might even say a lot of his stuff is an homage to Kirby, as you like to say.
Yeah.
He
I like a good homage.
He wrote and drew the Jack Kirby biography that came out a few years ago, and he also wrote and drew the Stan Lee biography that will be coming out in just a few weeks.
Nice.
So this is a really interesting book. Back in 1940, Jack Kirby created a comic book character called Adam Starr and the Solar Legion. This was printed originally in Crash Comics in 1940. This was before
we're losing.
Yeah. Oh no.
Wow. We're fine.
So this was before superheroes were like the main thing. Like Superman would only been around for over a year, barely. And so Jack Kirby drew this science fiction epic, because Jack Kirby loved science fiction comics, science fiction stories. Again, he as a kid would have read them in the 30s, all that golden age science fiction. So he drew this. It lasted 3 issues, and then he met his future partner Joe Simon, and they went on to create a character called Captain America. That, needless to say, you really should be paying attention to this stream if you haven't heard of Captain America. I think
it's like old school, like the things before the movies. Serials.
What's this? So like a lot of I've heard quotes from Jack Kirby where he says he felt like Star Wars ripped him off. The movie Star Wars. Yeah. And I sort of get that. It makes sense, because Jack Kirby was drawing the comics in the period that George Lucas was drawing influence from to make his movies in 1977, So,
You could say Star Wars is an homage to.
It's an homage to
Adam
Kirby.
Starr.
Yeah, we closed the loop.
Boom.
Star Wars is an homage to Kirby.
Brought it all back.
I mean,
it's got to be.
It's got to be.
Everything is inspired by something else.
It is, and that's actually the truth.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, that guy looks straight up from Star Wars.
Yeah,
George Lucas.
Yeah.
Stole it.
So what's notable about this book, though, is that this isn't just a reprint of the original Jack Kirby comics. This is it calls it a remix by Tom Scioli. So what this is, I believe, all of these panels are completely redrawn by Tom Scioli.
Oh wow!
And they're kind of I think the original comics you can find online. They're I'm sure they're in the public domain by now because it was a series that nobody probably even knew existed for a long time. But you can kind of compare this to the original pages. So he's kind of rearranged some of the panels, remixed it a little bit to make it bigger and pop on the page. So it's like it's not really it's not like I said, it's not a reprint. But it's like a cover song version.
It's a facsimile. Yeah.
But it's not a facsimile, but it's also not like a new comic. Like it's just
very
him.
Suspicious looking.
Very.
I gotta tell you, I have problems with this worm.
He's a little too hairy for your taste.
I got problems with this whole. Let's flip it.
Let's flip past it. There you go. Some nice lasers. But yeah, this is a cool comic. I love. You heard me talk about the facsimiles.
Yeah.
I love Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And so I was very excited to read this for the first time because this is a comic that
look
probably
Ferengi looking, bro.
Yeah, Ferengi.
Straight up. I mean, it's hard not to. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Come
like
on.
everything, like you said, everything comes from
Everything
something.
comes from something else.
But so this is really fun to look at. I like reading Golden Age comics, and this is. It's not exactly like reading the Golden Age, but it's like the original stories, but it's really close, and it's kind of just it's fun to see how he brought it to life in a new way. Like a good cover song,
reimagined.
Yeah. So this is definitely my pick for the week, and that's in a huge week that had a lot of good stuff. You've heard me talk mostly about. I mean, there's a few things in there I was less than positive about, but you've heard me talk about a lot of good books this week, and this was one of them for sure.
Star Warriors.
My pick.
Boom.
All right. So final book.
Ooh, final book.
Final book. We made it through the stack, if you can believe it. It's a huge stack.
It's been a long episode.
So I always ask a coworker to pick out it's a long episode. I ask a coworker to pick out a book to talk about, and our friend Celeste picked this out, Rare Flavors, mostly because it's also a number one.
Number one. It's gonna
be
worth something.
The 6th or 7th number one.
Oh man, it's gonna be valuable.
So this book is written by Ram V, who I'm not super familiar with, but I know he's written some stuff at DC, and it's drawn by Philippe Andrade. I'm not sure. Andrade. I'm going to say Andrade.
Sounds right.
Philippe Andrade, and it is. So that I was having a hard time making sense of the advertisement for it. Like the press, they said it was for fans of Anthony Bourdain. Bourdain.
Yeah, the writer slash food critic slash chef slash everything.
Correct. And so this seems first of all, I really liked this issue that it was a single story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But then it also sets up what's going on for the main series. So it's really well done. The idea is, so like there's this main character here. He's got some kind of, I don't want to like spoil it too much, but he's implying that he might be a god or some kind of supernatural being. And he's trying to find a guy to make a documentary about food that he loves because he just loves food. Meanwhile, these two characters here seem to be hunting him down, and they appear to have some kind of violent tendencies that are they might want to do some no good to the other guy. And a lot of this issue is like an Anthony Bourdain thing is spent talking about the food. So in this issue, it's like travel blogs. So he's talking about this masala chai, and I am not a tea drinker, so that just did not connect with me at all. But it's interesting just to see like how it's made and how it's brewed.
It's a thing you can read about.
It's a thing. I get why people like it. The story overall, it's because so much time was devoted to the tea. I did feel like it was kind of light. But it did at least was a complete story. So I appreciate it. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties off
apart
screen.
Over here.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I don't really have much else to say about this issue anyway, Dan.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. You might want to check it out. Oh, I take that back. I do have one other thing I want to say about this issue.
What do you want to say?
It's beautiful. So I'm not familiar with the artist whose name I just fumbled, Felipe Andrade.
Yeah.
But it looks great. I mean, as you can see and once we switch the camera from me flipping through it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a really, really beautiful book. So it's worth getting just for the art. It's got a real sense of style, like everything that I was complaining about that Marvel comic, like not in this. It's the opposite of this. Yeah. Like it's really beautiful. So good looking.
The color palette is really.
The colors are really good. Like it's a colorful book.
Pastels.
It's what I want from comic books, which is something that's really interesting to look at, and a story. Something that you can sink your teeth into. So
It's a food pun.
I totally did that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So I have to say, I enjoyed the issue. It definitely is somewhere in the middle for me as far as like it was a big week. It's coming out against a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially a Jack Kirby remix comic by one of my favorite cartoonists, Tom Schiele.
Yeah.
Hard to compete with that.
Hard to compete.
But I enjoyed it enough. I'm gonna keep looking. Yeah. I'm gonna keep. I'll look out for issue 2 and kind of see where it goes. It's what is it? Worth your $5? It's worth your $5.
It is worth the $5. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good to go.
We made it. We made it through the stack.
That was a large stack of books.
I think the biggest one we've done so far.
I kind of like a large stack as opposed to a small stack of books. Like to show people the wide range of things that you could purchase if you get into comic books. So yeah. Awesome, man. We did it.
Yeah.
That is your Tuesday preview for the books coming out this week.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't buy comic books here at Fantasy Books and Games or one of our other stores, Heroic Adventures or Fantasy Books in Belleville, buy them somewhere because there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Do it. Hey, that's a cool Star Wars shirt. I see what you're doing, you rascal. All right, we're at the end of the show, so no more from you.
They got that in just in time.
Yeah, just in time. All right, guys, we will see you next time.